Yeah, I was from child that parties.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. The break is finished just now. Then, as I already told you, yes, Paul, we will continue our green switch journey with the P4P trials. First part will be presented by our colleague Zahizin, agronomist and product developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So once again, thank you all. We're going to speak about the trial results and your stories. I'm going to focus firstly on the Europe life countries, let's say Europe campaign in 2020 and 2021. You should know that we had two types of trials, what we call B4 trials under the life segmentation, which are the scientific trials. This I will not talk about today. What we will talk about is the B5 type of trials, which are the demo trials, simple protocols, comparing a treated part to a control part, and where the main analysis was the yield, and in some cases, some qualitative aspects of it. During this presentation, I will ask some of you to intervene because it's your stories, it's only normal that you tell them. In the end, before I finish, we will also talk about outside of Europe, because we also did some things outside of Europe with Laurent, and in the end, we will have a short Q&A session if you have any questions. So, as earlier also in the discussion we said, somebody asked Adriano if he was satisfied, and he gave the number of 70%, 70 to 75% of good trials. This was the B5 campaign in 2020. We did 24 trials in 7 countries. Remember, it was the year where we had the COVID, so it was virtually impossible to do more. So we did a very rather localized campaign in 7 European countries. You can see them on the map. And we did, you can see the trials. 2 of them were, let's say, negative to insignificant results, or we didn't see anything. 4 of them, we saw good results or similar results, but with a reduction of entrants, mainly water or phosphate fertilizers. And 18 of them, so 75%, this is the number that Adriano was referring to, gave great results, either with reduction or without reduction, so in both conditions of comfort and stressful conditions. 2021, as you can see, no more COVID, or relatively less COVID. So we could also build on the previous experience of 2020. So we had the chance to go much more into details. We did 95 demo trials in 17 European countries. And what is very interesting is that we could cover almost 30 crops due to the wide range of the European continent. We could do some fruit trees, apricot trees in the southern part, some tomato in open field, and we reached also the Finland, Denmark, and Ireland, where we did some row crops, and it was a very wide array of crops. So the results came in, of course, with a bigger number of trials. You have slightly different numbers that come up. Overall, 52 over 81% of the trials, 81 trials, 64% were extremely good. 31% showed significant, or let's say showed some results with a reduction of entrants. And just 5% came as no result, or let's say even some cases negative results due to some external factors like frost or we lost the trial or something like that. A small remark, you will see here, we did 6 trials on NL17, which is a third product that is still under development and not yet commercialized, because we still need more time. Regarding the reduction of fungicides, specifically on wine grapes, one of the trials came back positive, and the other 5 were disregarded because we didn't have any significant disease pressure. So we forget about this. So now I'm going to talk about the For Good, For Vita. We group them together because they are foliar applied, although they target slightly different crops because of the market segmentation. The first trial I'd like to show was done with our partner in Belgium, thanks to our partner in the Netherlands, Iperen with Arvesta, which are active in Belgium specifically on many crops, but also on potato. We did 1 hectare, and the cultivar was Pintje. I'm not sure if I pronounce it well. Yeah, Pintje, I don't know. The farmer practice came out with a 60.73 tons per hectare compared to the P4P treatment 67.76. We did 3 applications to answer one of the questions also from the previous session: when do we apply? In this case, we start 6 weeks after the regrowth from ridging, which coincides with the start of the stressful periods, and we did 3 applications to cover this stress. Why we go with this dose? I'm going to explain it on the first trial and not explain it again, but if you have questions, you're welcome. The amount of application per hectare is determined on the amount of actives that we would like to have in total on the hectare. And also this is a very important thing, because the actives per hectare is one of the main factors that we would like to keep. For example, in order to have a good effect, we need, correct me if I'm wrong, Laurent, we need 90 grams per hectare of actives of For Good and For Vita. So depending on the product that we have, those varies a little bit, but in the end, the final product will use only 6 liters per hectare. So these were not the final products. So as you can see, we had plus 11.5% in yield, which is pretty significant on potato.
You mean in the fruit size?
No, in the weight, in the yield, in tons per hectare. And what was as an observation, we will not talk more about it for now. We're looking into it. We saw that there was much less scab observed for the treated. This is also something to think of for the future. And now, speaking of our partners in the Netherlands, I'd like to invite Jan Peter from Iperen BV, who followed the demo trials on, with the microphone, yes, who followed the demo trials on potato in the Netherlands. Thank you, Jan Peter.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to share some of the experience of the demo trials in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands last year we did 18 trials in potato. We did 4 demo trials in onion. And what is very important is that we combine the plants for plants with the crop protection. So the demo trials were at farmers' practice. So the farmers just treated one part of the field with the plants for plants, and he just added it to the tank with the crop protection. After the trial was finished, the samples were taken from the field, and the samples were measured by a smart grader. That's a kind of device, and it takes a picture of every bulb or every tuber in the sample, and it will measure every single product, and it will also measure the weight. Well, after that, we got the yield in kg or in tons per hectare. We also did some research to the product size. And in potato, we also looked at the dry matter content of the product. Well, before we started this trial, we were just brainstorming, Cor Eldering, my colleague, and me. We did the follow-up of the trials, and we were just thinking about the right moment to apply the plants for plants. And when we were brainstorming, we got the idea of predictable or plannable stress moments. So in every plant life, there are some moments where there is stress, whether it is rainy or whether the circumstances are optimal. The plant, every plant has some stress in that moment. And for potato, it's when the leaves start growing, then the potato needs to put a lot of input in the plant to grow a good amount of leaf. It's at the moment where it's forming roots to collect enough minerals. And it's also when the tubers are growing and filling. And that's where we try to put the plants for plants so that the plant was ready for that stress moment. An onion, we also did that. And we define the stress moments at the flat leaf stage. That's a very small stage of the crop. Also at the forming of roots, the development of the roots, of the leaves, and the growth and filling of the bulb. And in onion, we did some different schemes. We divided it in 3 applications, and we also tried to divide it in 4 applications. And that's because in the most early stage, there's not much leaf to absorb the plants for plants. So we tried 2 different regimes to check whether the plants for plants is taking up the best in the crop. So let's look at the data we collected.
Just to show you, we're going to take every line and go to detail.
Yeah, that was my first plan, but after that I heard at 6 there will be some drinks, so let's skip this and let's take the summary. Right here, I will look at the summary of the results in potatoes, and you see that there are positive results, and there are also some fields where the result is neutral or negative, and that's mostly is caused by the moment of application. There were many trials in the Netherlands, and not every farmer was started at the right moment. So that's where we learned this year, and next year we will define that. This year, yeah. This next year.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, these are part of the results. 2 results are cut away. One was around here, very positive, and one was around there, very negative. So that cannot be caused only by the application of plants for plants. So we removed that one, that 2. And when we check the average of this one, we see a slightly positive effect. I just want to highlight 2 of the demonstration trials, and that's because this one were close to my home, so I was checking them very often, so I know what happened at that field. But when we look at the size of the tubers, then we can divide the size of the tubers of potato in millimeters. So there's a size below 40, there's a size between 70 and 40 millimeters, and there's a size above 70. And it's good to know that the highest price per kg is paid for the potatoes in the middle class. So this size is the best size to sell as farmer and to grow. Well, when we see one field was at Afrikamp, we see that the size below 40 was less than untreated. So when Plants for Plants was applied there were less small tubers. When we see the size between 40 and 70, we see that there is much more tubers in the size 40 up to 70. So this one is very positive. And when we see the upper size, it's also a lot down. So we don't have the big sizes, which are not that much valuable. When we see the field of Grape, it looks like it's not that much positive because there's much more small potatoes, which are not that much valuable. There are much less potatoes in the most valuable size, and right here there's no much difference. But we can explain that because when I discussed that with the farmer said the treated field was way more vital when crop destruction was applied. So at some point, the farmer decided to destroy the leaf, to kill the leaf, because the size of the potato was already there. And the moment of that leaf destruction was taken by the untreated part. So when we see the treated part, it's way more young, more vital. And to compare it honestly, we obviously had to do the crop destruction at that field later. So that's why the difference is here. Well, when we look at the summary of the effects on potato, then we see that a higher yield in potato is possible when we apply the Plants for Plants. On average, the dry matter of the potatoes is increased by Plants for Plants. Whether the total yield is higher or lower, we saw in every single plot that the treated part had a higher dry matter content. And that can be explained because the Plants for Plants is hiring the efficiency of the water uptake and the minerals. So with the same minerals and same input, the plant can just grow more dry matter. So that's why in every plot we saw that in the results. But the growers also saw a difference in the plant fertility at the end of the season, and partly of the plots were killed or destroyed too early because the farmer's practice was ready and the demonstration trial was just a small plot. So farmer practice was leading. And that's the last important point. When the leaf destruction has to be applied, it's good to check if the treated field is already ready for that or has to grow a little further. Well, what are the plans for season 2022? That's this next year. We will apply it in farmers' practice in different areas all over the Netherlands. We will apply it mainly in potato, and at the harvesting data, we will use more practical data. Right now, we took samples just for the field from the fields, and this year we will get the hard data. So we will just take the practical yield of every field. So we divide just the field in treated and untreated, and we will exactly measure the yield. After that, we also will take some samples of it and analyze the size and the dry matter content. And what we've learned from last year is that we will start early with the application of plants for plants. We see when the leaves can take up the plants for plants, we will already start to give this plant some amount and to put it in the plant to prepare the plant for predictable stress. This one is for you.
No, this is for him. But thank you. Thank you, Peter. Trevor, microphone.
كان خطة مع المبيدات وإلا شو تتبعها.
The next trial, also on potato, is with our partner in Ireland, NAD, which we have also with us today, Trevor Cook. In Ireland, we did 4 trials. One of them was made at the meat potato company. Trevor, can you just tell us, please, who is the meat potato company and why is it important to mention this?
Okay, so Meat Potato Company are a kind of they're a wholesaler to one of the big supermarkets in Ireland. So they have a number of growers who grow for them, and they also grow themselves, and they package the potatoes for one of the big supermarkets. So they're a big enough company that handle a lot of potatoes. So you know, they have the capacity to run the samples through a pack house and run them out the other side and give us a grade out and really give us a proper answer as to what they think.
Excellent. If you look at one of the most important points in this trial was that we reduced the phosphate fertilizers by 30%. That's quite a significant amount, specifically on potato. We reduce the fertilizers by 30%. We test 2 hectares, that's not a very small plot also. We follow exactly a little bit earlier than in Belgium, for example, here, because we follow the emergence and then we come back 3 weeks after emergence and then we finish after the ridging. What is really interesting is that we still saw plus 2% yield and minus 30% P conditions. And Trevor, do you think, is this something that is going, you know the answer, of course it's yes, but I'd like to hear from you if there was any feedback from the meat potato company about the specific reduction of P fertilizer. What could this be as an impact for them?
Okay, so obviously that's a significant result, but it's based on one trial. So the company were very interested and they're going to be doing more trials this year, and they're going to take some product to use across the commercial crop as well. But I mean, in the field, the scab level was clearly visible before you did any. As soon as you put the fork in the ground, you could see the scab level on the treated plots were drastically different. We didn't really expect the yield to be kind of as high as it was, but when we measured them out, there was practically no difference in yield. So I mean, given where fertilizer has gone even since we did this trial, it's a very significant result.
Thank you. Another independent observation from the Belgian trial also was on scab. So this is why we think that something might be happening. We will get back to this also probably in the coming month. So that was for Ireland. Also with us today is from Germany, we have Andreas with us. This is a very nice trial on wheat. What happened here is that we did this trial in the Rhineland. We had plus 14.3 yield with 2 applications at mid-tillering and then at flag yield, which are also, to answer Rudy, the most stressful stages of the wheat crop in terms of water use efficiency in this case. Quite a significant increase in yield. And since the distributor is here, maybe he can tell us the comment. So I cannot read it. Trevor, if you can, the microphone. Yeah, so because also some specificity.
Yes, the result was very surprising because we thought if we have dry conditions, you can produce such an yield increase, but we have a lot of rainfall from mid of May till the whole summer, and so it was surprising to get 10 tons more.
Yeah. One very important, you can see how homogeneous is the field that we took, also thanks to your hard work and follow-up, so really thank you. And one comment that you also mentioned is that you were expecting even higher yields, but since the hydric stress was very early in the season and then you had a lot of rain, unfortunately, it was a very dramatic also episode in Germany and in all of Europe. So we know something is happening, and we're definitely going to continue to see what is going to happen in the next season.
Unfortunately, we had in mid of July, we had a flood in this area, and we had about 200 liters per square meter in 24 hours. So it was dramatical, and also we lost all the potato trials in this area.
Thanks for reminding me. Now we go to Slovakia, where we had an interesting trial done by MV Services. So here it was on corn, and we reduced 50% the phosphate application. So also we go there really hard on the crop. We reduce 50%. We do 2 applications just after it's at fourth leaf stage and 2 weeks later. And look, with 50% less P, we have the same yield. I mean, definitely something is happening here on the crop at the nutrient use efficiency level. We did also some grading followed by Dushan and Christina, you can see in the picture. Well, yeah, we have reasons to believe that also, even though maybe economically you would tell me it's not feasible, but we have some nice results going even on Arabic crops.
Maybe.
Sure.
I would like to add, because it was my trial.
Okay.
But I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The point is, just to explain more, what does it mean minus 50%? It was MAP fertilizer in the row during together with the sowing. This is the last P.
This P and this N.
Yes. Now let's be back in the price policy what we spoke, because P in that moment, MAP in that moment on the market cost 400 to 500 euros. We are speaking about granular one MAP. And the farmer told me, I cannot reduce the P. We will go with all the same amount of the P. Now, and later on we spoke internally, and they told me 50% is too much. We cannot do that. And I thought, if I miss the year without any decrease in P, I will got crazy, because this is the main point. And I agree. He told me I cannot decrease 30%, I can decrease 50%. That's the possibility due to machinery. And I told him, okay, go with 50% and we will be what will be. I really followed this trial during the vegetation period. From the visual point of view, we couldn't see any kind of difference. Then our part with 50% decrease is not suffering. At the end, Christina and me was there to do the manual harvest just to check. At the end, we got almost similar result. In this period, with this price policy, it was effect. Now, when we have more than 100% increase of the granular MAP as well, if you can find MAP on the market, that's the point. And at the end, I'm happy of this trial. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. And now it's one of the trials that I follow personally with Laurent, with Arteris in France. It's on a wine grape, very prestigious domain of grapes in the Perpignan area. It's called the Domaine Jonquière d'Oriola. It's a very nice plot of wine grapes. You can see it pretty much ideal for trials, very homogeneous. And the plot is equipped with a meteo station right here that gives us exactly the hydric situation on the field, which was followed by an independent company. So completely, we just asked the guys there from the winery, please reduce whatever advice you get from the weather station, reduce it by 25%. So in the end, we did 25% less water on wine grapes in one of the hottest areas in Western Europe, which is Pyrénées-Orientales. And we did 3 applications during just before the heat and drought stress, and throughout the hot months of July. And you can see, I'm a bit ashamed to show the result. We had plus 38% in yield. It was something that they didn't understand what is happening. Specifically, this specific plot is used to make very high-end wines. They are following it very, very closely. And honestly, they are not investing on fertilizers in this plot. They just need to have a few grapes with very high quality to have their prime category of wines. So they had 38% increase in yield with minus 25%. We took samples for quality assessment. I did not add them here, but this is my bad. I'm sorry. We tested to see, because when you see plus 38%, you think to yourself, of course the quality is different. It's not possible. But in fact, the quality was preserved in terms of pigmentation and bricks. We did not have any difference. And this year, Jonquière d'Oriola is buying for around 20 hectares of their vineyard. So it's one of the success stories that we wanted to share with you. Yeah, enough for foliar. Now we will talk about Forterra, which is applied in fertigation. And then again, I would like to ask Frank from Iperen BV to join me to explain the trials that we had on orchards specifically.
Thank you, Zahi.
Thank you. It's the same.
Okay, not so much data as Jan-Pieter, but still too much to handle today. But I will tell you something about trials in top fruits, especially in pears and also some in cherries. This is a lot of data out of the leaves. We measured the minerals in the leaves, and we saw there a little difference. Especially phosphate is interesting for us, but there we saw not a lot of difference in the leaves. I can tell a lot about that, but for now it's not interesting, I think, because we only measure the juice of the leaves and not the total leaf. And for us, more interesting in this trial is the fruits itself, not the leaves. We had a lot of different varieties of pears. I will show you some about the most above is Conference. The most of the pears in Holland is Conference. And what we saw in general, most of the minerals on the treated subject are more high than when we didn't treat. So I think that's in general a good result. Also in the one below, it's another variety, Sweet Sensation. We saw the same, but for us most interesting is this point. And that is what Jan-Pieter also showed in potatoes. The dry matter of the fruits in the treated objects were higher than in the untreated. And why is it so interesting? because dry matter, when it's higher, you have more tastier fruits. And also, the storage of the fruits is better. So you can hold your fruit longer in storage. So for us, there was a surprise in this trials, because we know on the minerals it will do something, but for the dry matter, that was for us a surprise. We take some samples from these trials, and in these trials we did a measure. And what you see here is that we have bigger fruits in general from all the trials, but also the weight of the fruit is much more. So about 10% more in the treated objects. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting point, because when you have the same amount of fruits, but they are bigger and more heavy, you will have per hectare more tons. Only not in amount of the pears, but only because of the size. So what's the conclusion about top fruits and Forterra? Now, we saw not a clear view from the plant sap, I explained it already, but what we saw in the fruits, the mineral compounds in the dry matter are higher in the treated objects, and that's a very interesting point. And also, the treated objects give bigger fruits and more heavy fruits. So when you have the same amount of fruits on the same hectares, you will have more tons. And when you have 5 tons more, it will be paid better. Only with a simple treatment of Forterra. So that was my point. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. And to continue on the fruit trees, this is another trial that we did in France, also with Arteris in the same area of the wine grapes in Rivesaltes. With Fabrice Aon, he's a local grower in Rivesaltes. It's the second year that he uses Forterra. I will give you the insights of 2020 first. We did 3 applications. Practically the same protocol was followed in 2020 and 2021. 3 applications of the total dose per hectare that we need to apply divided by 3. We start pretty early at pink bud, and then we come back every 2 weeks. The aim is, as also mentioned earlier, to try to tackle the period where the phosphate is much more needed in the plant. And the results were really spectacular. You can see in 2020, which was, by the way, a normal year, let's say, no major problems. We had plus 41% increase in the yield in kilogram per tree. And what is much more interesting is the desired calibers, which is the 2A, 3A, which pays approximately double than the other category. So we had plus 55% and much less waste and unsellable, let's say. So we said, okay, something is happening. Let's repeat the trial again on the second year, on 2021. 2021 was, if you remember, unfortunately also, we had a frost wave that hit this part of Europe in April. And the apricots were really affected. And the price went also up almost 2 or 3 times. So also it was the people who had yield this year were really happy. So you can see that the increase is not as spectacular, but it's still, quite significant, plus 12% in total. And you can see this number coming back again, plus 11% of the desired calibers. And if we combine over 2 years the results, we can see 26% increase in the yield per tree and almost 36% in desired calibers. To be mentioned that in the first year also we had a reduction of phosphates, which was not the case in the second year. So This is this year Fabrice also bought some product for his plot, so to continue, but this time he bought the product, so we're happy. To continue on Forterra, I'd like to ask Argyris from AGK. You say it. Okay. No pressure. But, yeah. So you can see on this banner the Florina pepper, which is I think you can explain to us what is this crop, and then I'll present.
This crop is a very valuable variety in Greece, and this is very professional farmer.
Okay.
He works a lot with our trials, and he likes a lot because they have more yield, and he uses less phosphorus. And the phosphorus nowadays is very expensive, so it was very happy for us.
Okay.
So he looked forward to work with Plants for Plants.
Excellent. So as you can see, as Argyris explained, disregarding the price. George, thank you. Thank you. So we had a 30% decrease in phosphate in this specific trial, and plus 10% increase in yield. And as you explained very well, I mean, already it's a high value variety with high price increase of P fertilizer, so it's totally justifiable now. Just to mention the application dates, because it's a verticated crop, we split as much as possible in this situation. With every irrigation, we give a little bit of product in a way to give the 3 applications on the whole period of production. Also with us today in the room, Dalibor from Horti Center, Croatia. The microphone, please. Dalibor. Thank you. Would like to explain?
Hello. We did a trial in strawberry. The location was Botinec, near the capital of Croatia, Zagreb. It was on 4 hectares. 1 hectare was the treated area, and the other 3 hectares was untreated area. The variety is clary. It's grown in tunnels with fertigation, and the focus was on phosphorus. We put 30% less phosphorus, but we had problem because it was 2020, the COVID situation. The product came late to us, and the farmer already did all the phosphorus with the NPKs because the strawberry is in Croatia. We are planting it the year before in August, so we didn't get the interesting early phase for the phosphorus, and because the application was in April, and because we didn't have the 30% less phosphorus in the treated area, we put on the control area more MAP to get the difference. So the untreated area got also more nitrogen.
So it's minus 30%, but effectively it's plus 30% on the other one.
Oh yes,
Okay.
it was
And
plus 30%
and plus nitrogen.
and plus nitrogen. And the results were, you can see, really similar, but we also had a problem with the frosts, because where we placed our treated area was near the edge of the tunnel, and we have frost damage on the edges, and so it was not possible to assess the yield with like counting all the fruits and measuring We did it with the whole plot. We measured the kilos and we divided by the number of plants in the plot. And so we think that the conclusion could be that the results could be even better if we put the application before, and if there was not frost damage.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. So this was for the trials. I'm just going to tell you what we are doing this year in 2022. So with AJK, we have the first sales. Thank you, Vangelis. Thank you, Yorgos. We will focus on vegetables and fruit trees with Forterra and for mainly with Forterra and for Vita. In France, we did the first sales in south of France with Arteris, and we will focus on wine grapes and fruit trees. Also developing is in France another network, which is the Iperen network. We are doing some trials also on wine grapes, but in the Cognac area, which is a bit more to the north. With NAD, Trevor, we did the first sales, and we will also have an expansion on potato experience this year with more trials. In Croatia/Serbia with Horticenter Alexander, we have the first sales and more demo trials. With BV, our sister company, of course, we have some sales and we continue. And also with Caldena in Poland, we will make a special focus this year on trials on arable crops. Poland is well known for this type of crops. So we will follow a little bit more in depth what is happening, with hopefully good news, Rudy, next year for you. You will be happy. You will be happy. No, arable crops, not watermelon. Okay. Forterra, as I said, also in Greece, in France, with Horticenter, with BV, and first sales achieved with next gen farming in Romania. I'm not doing any pressure. It's just to say that we will start this year something also. That was it for me. And now I'd like to ask Laurent to join me. Maybe the microphone, because this is too much. Yeah.
Thank you, Zaid.
Thank you, Laurent.
So indeed, very impressive trials results for life, because as you see, this last maybe 3 years, because if we include the before trials, scientific trials, it's even more than 3 years, but we did a lot of trials in the European community. But last year, we had the pleasure to work with other countries from, let's say, at least outside of the community, European community. So this is a map. We work notably. We will see some trials from Turkey, from Egypt, and Lebanon. Unfortunately, the client of Egypt and Turkey will not join us for different reasons, mainly because for visa reason. It's really because we expect. So I will try to present their trials, but it's a bit talking about the crops. We focus on the different countries, 8, 9 countries, but mainly these 3 ones, on table grape, potato, banana, peanuts, and strawberry, cotton, sunflower, etc. So it was much less impressive than what we have done these last 3 years in Europe, but it was very interesting. Why interesting? Because if the objective of a plant for plant project life is, let's say, very clear and really makes sense and in line with the expectation of the European authority, I mean, better efficiency, how to reduce input, etc. Try to find some solution regarding the climatic change. I would say it's even more the case in these countries, because talking about climate change, it's a real issue. We learned yesterday, or the day before yesterday, that in Iraq, for instance, they will probably stop the rice cultivation because of the availability of water. It's a drama. I talked yesterday also with other people that the situation regarding climate change is really terrible. And we have the same situation as well in Europe. Adriano confirmed that the last 5 months, nothing, no rain in Italy, etc. So we really need to find some solution, and we believe that P4P could help. You will see that in Turkey, this last 2 years is just a disaster regarding the evolution of the climate and the drought and everything. So let's start with Turkey, with Safatari. Unfortunately, they are not here. 10 trials last year, 9 different crops. 60%, sorry, in this case it's not 70, so here we know it's not 70 or 75 results. But for you to know, the 3 trials which were not positive, in fact it's not positive or negative, it's just because they were not able to finalize the test because of flooding, because of hail as well, and 3 of these trials were not succeed at the end. So let's talk about 2 or 3 trials that we had. The first one was on foliar application, via foliar application on table grape, on red globe. Table grape is very important in Turkey. This is something like 6 countries in the world as producer, 0.5 million hectares of table grape. So it's a very crucial speculation production. In this case, we use 4-Vita without any reduction of water. So let's say in theoretical comfort situation, it was probably not so comfortable because they have some issue in this area to have all the available water they would like to have. And they reached 4% yield more with 4-Vita, which is not a bad result, particularly because of so the color was much nice. And this is a very important point to market such a product. The other crops trials is on potatoes, on Forterra, so via fertigation. A little bit earlier than what we learned in Netherlands as well in Ireland, because it was only 2 weeks after healing, after ridging, and every 3 weeks, I guess. So the first application was 2 weeks after healing, and then 3 weeks after, and 3 weeks after. In this case, the yield result is much more impressive. We don't have a 90 ton per hectare like we could expect in Netherlands or in Belgium or in north of France as well, but 50 to 60 ton per hectare is not so bad in Turkey. It means 15% yield more on potatoes with only 3 applications of Forterra. And again, you're right to mention that they observe some clear effect on the less scab. This is something that we observed last year, not to say in all the trials we did on potatoes. We don't have any explanation, so we will start to give some, but this is really something that has been observed in all the trials. So if you have looked to the map of Turkey, the 10 trials were mainly in the west coast, also Mediterranean Sea, and close to Antalya area, Izmir area, as well as in central position between Konya and Ankara. So I start to talk about climatic condition. You hear some prediction every year. There are some prediction about what will be the water scarcity situation the year after. So the prediction was relatively severe for some place, notably in the Antalya area, and that's very important to have an idea about what will be the situation regarding the water availability in this period of the year, because the game is over. If after April, in most of the trials, if you don't have enough water and groundwater or in the soil, it's the beginning of a drama. So that was the prediction. And if you have a look to the real situation, so in the year after, in 21, it's just not good at all, because you can see that all Turkey was really under stress. And if you have a look to the root zone wetness, it's the estimation of the top 1 meter of soil. And if it's red, it means that it's a terrible situation. As you can see, in Konya and Ankara area, Antalya as well as Izmir. It was absolutely terrible. So P4P should be one of the solutions to expect some improvement regarding how to fight regarding such a problem. Sorry, I go too fast. Okay, so that was for Turkey. Now, if we go for other country, and if we go for good and for Vita first, let's go to Egypt. So we have trials on banana. So the trials on banana was interesting as well because we increased the production of 8%. If you have a look to the yield, it's 0.25. So we have to multiply per 4. It's 40 to 50 tons per hectare, which is quite correct. And the application of Vita was a usual one, free application. So we try to split the application of Vita per 3 liter. An important thing that has been noted as well, it is that they increase. Sorry, come on. It is the fact that it was earlier harvesting. Maybe they win something like 15 days. So banana, we have also on peanuts. Unfortunately, they don't have the final yield in this case because something happened during the harvest. They were not able to estimate, but before the harvest, they did some trials on 1 meter, 2 meter. This is what they told me, and they checked clearly, visually, a big difference in terms of potential yield in favor of for good in this case. So Joe gave us some pictures, so you can see the peanuts trials on the right as well as on banana. Last trials on potatoes, we had also an increase of yield, in this case of 8 tons, which is in line with what we checked these last 3 years in other places all over the world, particularly Europe, North Europe. So foliar application of 3 times 4 liter of for good, and a clear increase of yield. 33, 36 ton per hectare. It's not a big yield, but it's quite acceptable as an average. One trial on Terra. So in this case, it was interesting. Maybe we could have some comment. It was done in Sade company on strawberry. So via fertigation, no real increase of yield in this case, because as you can see, it doesn't work, but okay, you can see it's a quite similar yield P4P compared to the farmer practice. But the interesting point was the reduction of fertilizer. So maybe I could add some more details about what was the real situation, because I know that they decrease by 20% the P, but as you use MAP as well as 1052 or 1053, 10 NPK, maybe you probably also decrease a little bit the content of nitrogen and potassium. So that's quite interesting as well. I don't know if you have some comments about this one. Please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be representing Société Saade Agricole. My name is Yusuf Saade. So part of the team did not reach yet. My expertise are mainly crop protection. However, the team responsible of this experiment will be hopefully there tomorrow. But at the end of the day, in a sustainable approach for agriculture, even if we don't see much difference between the yield with conventional fertilizers and the yield with the novel products, reducing the fertilizers and keeping the same yield is also a plus for the new approach and the European Green Deal.
Especially in this state.
And just regarding the fertilizer, do you remember if it was an NPK or just straight fertilizer there, like MAP? Okay.
It was 10 to 10
And MAP as well. Yeah. So that's why it's definitely interesting. And it's not only a reduction of P, it's probably a reduction of the total fertilizer. So thank you. Thank you for the comment. If we talk about 22, again, all this country will start, some of them start last year, some of them will start this year. Congratulations for Armenia, because Armenia, it will be the first year of P4P use, and you are the first to register as well as to buy the product. So really congratulations. It means that you have a high level of confidence, and that's why you are very happy, and thank you again. So you already ordered for Terra by fertigation for good for foliar application. And then we discuss, we will probably focus on soft fruit, apricots, and fruit fruits in general. If you want to say something, some comments about this product, please be free.
I think not yet. After we will try.
Okay, that's really, it makes sense. Again, thank you very much for Armenia, because we just start with this country. So for 22, talking about foliar application with 4Vita and 4Good, we will have 8 countries. Unfortunately, only 2 or 3 of them will be with us, will join us today. But we will have Safatari because of the, let's say, the first good result they had last year. So we will focus on sweet potatoes, corn, sugar beet, and table grape as well. Quisna in Egypt on banana. It's an important market, but we expect much more targeted crops. United Arab Emirates with agriculture on palm particularly. Iran, Qatar, Iraq, Lebanon, and Armenia. So 8 countries for good and for Vita. And we will have the same situation for Terra. So it means that these 2 products are a clear different segments. The difference will be, we will have also Albania in this case to work on for Terra. So again, a real thanks to all these countries, because again, they don't have the experience that we have in Europe these last 3-4 years, and not to say more, because as I say, with Lab, we start working on P4P many years ago. But we expect a real development also with outside country for European community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And now we'll take the time for some questions and answers. And thank you. And also to let you know that we made this nice book, which combines around 40, I think a little bit more than 40 trial results on all the crops that we had, and it has also a wide variety of crops and climatic conditions. So these books will be distributed to you for your reference as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
In all the trials you did in Europe, you focus on using less phosphorus. Why you didn't, for example, check less potash? This is first. Second, in your trials, you made the product with less fertigation. I believe you were supposed to make other trials with less fertilizers and without the product to see if we have the same results.
Thank you, Nasser. Indeed, these were done basically in the before trials with a much wider protocol, following also the untreated negative control, which means that you don't put any fertilizer and you just see with and without the product, and then you put some fertilizer, reduced or not. So we have also, and you will find here some of them, of the before trials. And of course, if you're interested, we can forward to you more details about this. And for the first question, which can you remind me it was what? Sorry. Yeah, why only on P? To be in accordance with the European policy for life project, one of the main concerns of Europe today is how to make the phosphate more efficient because of the whole environmental problem, and notably of eutrophication of the water and the groundwater. So the pollution of the groundwater and the eutrophication of the surface water. So this is why the initial idea was to go with phosphate use efficiency. But as you can see in many results, we also see a nutrient use efficiency in general, be it with the trials with BV, specifically Iperen BV on fruit trees. You see that all the nutrients are increased. You see also that, for example, in the case of reduction of P, when it's P, it's rarely just P. It's DAP or MAP, or so you have also reduction of N and P. And in the case, for example, of Saade, it's an NPK, or with Dalibor, they reduce its NPK applied. With HGK also in Greece, it's NPK. We focus on the P, but it's surely less fertilizer overall. And one more thing to say, when you go, why we go for P? Because P is the first nutrient, and when the plant is in an establishment phase, to get a good root system, you need the P. And once you have the good root system, if you reduce the other fertilizers, it's not a problem because the plant is well established and has, you will see tomorrow also with Christina on the mode of action, when the plant, sorry, I'm going to spoil it, when the plant is activated in a way to find a solution for the P deficiency, good, I think, yeah, then it's one of the critical elements in the establishment phase, so that's one.
Another reason, if you have a look to the prediction, if you have a look to the, let's say, what we could expect in coming years, P will be an issue all over the world. That's not really the case of potassium. And as I said, with potassium, we don't have so many impact on the environment, not to say no impact. But P will be an issue because it's more and more difficult to extract good quality of P. It's also more and more expensive. But we predict that in the coming 20 years, we should miss a lot of P. We will have a lot of P for agriculture, and not only for agriculture. If you have another question, please. Yes.
In Germany, we have a problem with demo trials. In this case, that most of the farmers and also the consultants, we have a lot of consultants in Germany, they wanted to see exact trials from unindependent institutes. I think in other countries, you may have the same problems. So I think we have to invest in this.
I know the situation in Germany. We try to launch some product, and you need 2 years minimum if coming from advisor or institute, etc. So definitely we will have to follow the rules, but just to tell you that it's not really the case in most of the other countries. We need some scientific trials, but if it comes from a very credible structure, a scientific structure like online, it's more than enough. But I know the situation in Germany.
And also the farmers are sometimes not very careful. The application they
Yeah, so that's why it has to be well managed. So the message is clear.
I just wanted to ask about the trials on phosphorus usage efficiency and sandy soil. Did you have some trials on sandy soils?
Yes, we had some sandy soils, specifically in potato, on some trials in the Netherlands. And tomorrow, I think Christina will also give us more insights about what is happening in the soil. So we will have more discussions about this. but we did some of the, but we did not precisely target sandy soils as such, but the array of soils was very large. So as you can see, it's on the whole European continent. So if you're referring to your kind of sandy soils, then we will see this here with you.
This issue will be very important for Iraq, for Egypt,
Yeah,
also
definitely.
for Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you are in Saudi Arabia for such kind of importance, but it will be very, very important.
We will need you, as usual.
Yeah, very
So you made a question to me, I make a question to you. Back to the question that also I got before, and now I saw many trials, and then the application time is getting the crucial for the products. So do you have in mind, or can you somehow think how can you or we be even more precise during the for different crops, different climate conditions, because BBTA's 30 takes different timing from going from one BBTA to the other, depending on the parallel you are to the climatic conditions, so on. So how can we think to be even more precise? Because to me, somebody was saying that in the Netherlands, you say that you guessed that some trials were not successful because the application timing was not the most appropriate, right? So that was your conclusion. So do you have in mind how can we together, I would say, go more precise to the application windows?
It's not always a question.
That's why you give it to my hand.
No, first of all, we are still young, and I think we still have some homework to do to be a little bit more precise, and this is what we will do anyhow. And I think that Christina will give us some clue that we always are in a way to improve everything, the product, etc. What we know, thanks to all the job you did this last 6-7 years, it is that we need to reach a minimum of dosing per crop. And the thing that is interesting to note here is that whatever the crop, more or less, we know more or less what is the amount. And that we know, and so it is that if you split, it will be always better. So that we can recommend, it's 3 to 4 applications. Via fertigation, it could be even more, because it's not a problem to inject the dosing per day or per week or what we want. And now, if we talk about what we know regarding the mode of action and regarding the effect, I don't want to spoil the presentation of tomorrow, but we have to target, we know what to target. When we talk about PUE, and if you focus on PUE, and this is something that you already explained, so no need to repeat, game is over after a certain phenologic stage of the crop. Game is over. So that's why the windows is not so large. It's a question of weeks, and that's why if you think about free application as a kind of reasonable recommendation, it will be free application every 10 days, for instance. This is for soil application, maybe for now. If we are looking for free application for Vita, for instance, you're right to say that we are not 100% sure about what could be the best period of application, because you just select few trials, but we have 120 trials. And if you have a look to the stages, it works. I don't want to say whatever the stages, don't misunderstand, but it works well, particularly for Vita, because we are talking about oxidative phenomena. And oxidative phenomena is all cycle long. So, and that's why, that's the big difference, and that's the big USP with all the other biostimulants. Seaweed, we know more or less when to apply, and humic acid as well. We expect with plant for plant, a very interesting effect at whatever the phenologic stage. But if you talk about water use efficiency, let's anticipate a little bit the probable period of hydric stress. And that's why we try as much as possible to to advise the end user, because you know by advance if it's in June in some country or July. Or now the question is it possible to be a little bit more accurate? Probably yes, you are right. But the good news somewhere it is that even with different stages, we collect good results every year. So do we need to change and to be much more accurate? Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe by your experience as distributors, we will learn together how to become more accurate, because it's a total disruptive solution. So we cannot pretend to say that we today, at this date, we know everything about the product. So we are still learning, and we count on your local experiences to help us. For example, what happened in the Netherlands this year is a very good example, because we had the theory, we put it into application, and we saw that, okay, this is what we know, let's try to change it. And probably we reached now today with our sister company that for this kind of climates and this type of soils and these conditions, okay, we will go with this protocol. We will start from there. So today the advantage is that in the new countries, we have already the past experience in Europe, so it should become faster. But I think we cannot precisely say today for all the crops. This is why the actives per hectare is very important.
This is something that we can initiate review, definitely. Yeah. But let's keep in mind that it works in comfort condition. That's not the case for all the other biostimulants. Have a look to what industry claim about amino acid or seaweed. They talk about stress, and so it works well with stress, no doubt. In half of the trials, or maybe less, 40% of the trials, we were able to induce some reduction of water or NP or P fertilizer. But in many cases, even in comfort situation, it works well. So that's why it's totally a new generation of biostimulant. Maybe for some very specific crops, notably thanks to the example of Netherlands, we could try to be a little bit more accurate. Let's open this new field in this dimension. But I think that tomorrow, with the presentation of Christina, we will have more clear idea.
Oh, yeah.
Too much pressure.
A lot of promotion.
Yeah. Adriano?
What can you offer? What can you offer?
You are making a lot of promotion for her.
Okay.
The question?
If there are no further questions, I think Dushan, where is it? Oh, we have two questions.
I'm sorry.
Are there any plans to combine the Plants for Plants products with some nutrients to broaden out the range? Or is that totally against the...
That's not the initial idea, but this is also
yeah. So this is the next step, indeed. One of the ideas for the development, specifically this morning we were discussing it also. It's a still fresh idea because, as Adriano explained this morning, it's the complete complex and the dosing, the total dose per hectare that matters. So we have to find a way not to dilute too much the product and still have a viable application quantity per hectare in total amounts. But it's definitely something on the table for the years to come. Would like to? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, your question was in the agenda at the very beginning. So the plan was to combine this complex with special nutrients. Then we slowly discovered that one critical factor is the stability and the shelf life of the products. So which was really challenging us a lot, still challenging us a lot, I would say. Because it has another aspect, agricultural products are based on chemicals. The chemicals are stable per definition. So you put there a bottle and you leave there potassium nitrate for years, and then it's potassium nitrate after. But more or less, but that's not the case. So then the question came, what will happen if we add, because we had to define also the specific pH in which these phytocomplexes are stable, which is was also challenging in the production phase. So now what will happen if we add a salt, another salt, which complexes will eventually, I don't know, flocculate or precipitate, or what will happen, or they change the physical structure, the chemical structure. We don't know that yet. So it's an interesting and might be a very useful, especially after I saw what you have here in the Netherlands, that the level of micronutrients will increase by the application already of the product per se, might be even more increased by adding some micronutrients. So many questions are coming. So it's not just related to the simple addition of nutrients, but it's mainly related to the stability of the products over time and the phytocomplexes health, I would say. Yes.
No, sir.
My question is like this, I'm not a professional, I'm not, with education background, but my question like this, we have the macro elements, and then we have the micro elements, and then we have the humic acid, and then we have the amino acid, and then we have the seaweeds, plus the ion shellac, plus the phosphoric acid, and now we are coming to be plant by plant. What is the unique value added of this product among all the others? What is the key that we need to go with it, to focus on it for the trials or for the promotion of the product with the farmers?
Sorry, Christina, but once again, tomorrow during the presentation of Christina, you will see the mode of action of the product, and we will explain what is really disruptive of the product. But just broadly, to give you an answer now, as Mark said earlier in the first presentation, today 99% of the biostimulants are well defined. We know exactly how they work. We know everything about them. And somehow, it's always the philosophy of the application is that I have a problem, I apply a product, I have a solution. If we still follow this philosophy in agriculture, we are starting to reach already the limitations. We cannot continue to grow. What we need to do is to go a little bit outside of the box. And tomorrow you will see that Plants for Plants is offering us a chance of potential yield that so far was still unreachable with the traditional biostimulants. And we have all the scientific background to explain this. And second, as you can see, what's really new, and thanks to the LIFE project, we learned very well that here you also reduce a lot of the resources that you normally have that you normally have abundantly. Today, with the current situation and the whole green switch idea of Iperen, and with the collaboration, of course, with LandLab and other partners, we cannot continue using, I have a problem, I use a product, I have a solution, because we are starting to reach the limitations. I hope I give you the start of the answer tomorrow.
Okay, I have a question. How is the status about the registration of the products for the European community or for single countries?
So the registration today, we follow direct registration in some countries, like Germany already, we already have the registration. In Greece, we have the registration. In Armenia, we have the registration. So we have a couple of countries, even more than a couple of countries, where we already have a local registration. In parallel to that, we are following also the path of the CE law registration. We already launched everything that needs to be done, and now we're waiting for I think we had one of the first monitoring meetings with them, and we are on the right path. And Mark? you want to correct?
No, indeed. So the within Europe, of course, until recently we had no choice than using mutual recognition, meaning registering in one country and then go to the other countries. We are on one hand lucky, on the other hand not to be Dutch, because to be honest, before recently we did not even have a definition of biostimulants in the Dutch law. So that's also one of the reasons that Holland was the first country, the first 3 countries where an official body was appointed to do the registration according to the new EU law. This body was Kiwa. And Kiwa is appointed to do that. And also, if I'm not mistaken, Hungary and Poland have this registration body. And that means that with the great support of Tuve Ingman, our regulatory affair manager, we managed to get the audit of about 10 products already done, and of which the 3 plants product. And for now, we have the green light that as of the 1st or 21st of June or July, whatever it is, when the EU law comes in place, that these 3 products of plants are, as of the first beginning, registered as a biostimulant according to the EU law.
In Canada, so that it will be organic farming, because to do the trials, some of the trials have been done in
Organic certified agents.
So that's why we need some certificates. Other questions about what you want?
Okay. If there are no further questions, Dushan, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much for